Week 2 was an absolute bloodbath with some of the biggest stars in fantasy football either randomly getting hurt in practice or landing on injured reserve. Think about how we started the week, Aidan. Round 1, CMC, Achilles tendonitis. See you in week 8, buddy. Round 1, A.J. Brown, pulled hamstring on a Friday. See you in 2 weeks, buddy. Round 2, Isaiah Pacheco, broken fibula, IR, 8 to 12 weeks. Round 3, Cooper Kupp, high ankle sprain. See you in what? 3 to 6 weeks. Round 5, Joe Mixon, high ankle, comes back in, but we're taking it day by day. That could be a multi-week injury, dude. I don't know. That was one of the worst injury weeks that I've seen in some time. And I know we get them every single year, but it's usually maybe like a soft tissue week or something. This was like all ankles. Like everyone was hurting their ankle, hurting their foot. I thought the whole point of like getting rid of this hip drop tackle was we weren't going to see this anymore. Well, they're not calling it. So
we're still seeing it.
Yeah, we even saw Jamar Chase have a meltdown over. I don't think that looked like a hip drop tackle, but he said it was. Like he was pissed. He thought they should call it. I don't know. Something's off with this whole rule. I don't want to dig in too much, but basically, you need help on the waiver wire this week. We all do. I do. I'm a Kupp owner. I'm searching high and low to try and replace his production. It's going to be brutal. So on today's episode of the Regression to the Mean podcast, we have 15 players you need to target on the wire that we think will either A, help you overcome injuries, B, help you find league-winning stashes, or C, give you valuable streamers to help you win week 3. I'm your host, Shaun Moran, and I'm joined by my good friend, my co-host, my fellow knower of ball, Aidan Haller. Aidan, how are we doing today, man?
You know, Shaun, I'm doing okay. First losing Monday with my Chicago Bears. That wasn't a great watch. But I've got a couple matchups that are close going into Monday. So excited for the first Monday sweat. I really didn't have any in the balance in week 1, so I'm excited. I'm gonna need some Saquon. Gonna need some Smitty, gonna need some London. Even Kyle Pitts is hinging on a matchup. So I'm excited.
What could go wrong?
Good matchup tonight. What could go wrong? Kyle Pitts would never let me down. Neither would Drake London. So I'm excited, man. How you doing?
I am good. I'm dealing with I'm still kind of dealing with that 97-yard in the air bomb that Sam Darnold threw to Justin Jefferson. Equal parts just like, oh my God, that was sweet. No, like equal parts like I'm gonna hurt myself or somebody around me because I'm a Niner fan. But yeah, you alluded to it. We're recording here before Monday Night Football kicks off. Prediction time. I do think the Falcons offense bounces back. I think this game will be fun. I don't know how good the Eagles defense is, so hopefully Bijan, Smitty, all those guys do well. Stay healthy too. Stay healthy, please. In
please,
this game,
for the love of God,
just please. I don't need another soft tissue or a high ankle. It's just my little heart can't take it. But I digress. Today's waiver wire episode is pretty straightforward. If this is your first time rocking with us for waivers, we break it down pretty simple. We highlight some of the major injuries from week 2 with estimated timelines and the overall fantasy impact. And then after that, we go position by position and highlight our priority waiver wire targets for week 3. We'll start with wide receivers. We'll end with tight ends. But before that, Aidan, this is probably the first time some people have found our channel today. You know, YouTube suggested our video. What should the people do if it's the first time discovering the RTM podcast?
What we want you to do is hang around with us today. Whether it's, just for the first position, maybe you're just searching for a certain position, hang around with us as long as you want. Once you're done doing that, it is up to you to decide what you do next. Do you give us a like? You give us a comment? If you really like it, you may join the Mean Team and subscribe to our channel, but that choice is yours and only yours. Just hang around. We like to riff. We've got some good data for you. We're not total nerds here, but we keep it light. We've got some good insights for you. So hang around, see what you think, and the decision's up to you at that point.
I just get the chills every time you do it. He knows how to talk to the people. So again, we're a relatively new channel. Yeah, it's a big choice. We're a relatively new channel. Aidan and I have known each other for like 10 years now. College buddies. Yep. Me, Aidan, and Keegan started this thing. It's been a ton of fun. We're trying to get the best possible data and information to all of you to help you win your leagues. So if you like what we're putting out there, join the Mean Team. All right, Aidan, we're going to start things off on a negative note. We're going to start things off
real bad
with the injury bug. And the first guy we got to highlight is Tua Tagovailoa. Did I get that right? That was probably the best one.
You were close. You keep like sneaking in an N before the G, but you were pretty close that time.
Dude, because I think there is one.
Maybe I've been saying it wrong.
I've heard people like pronounce it in a certain way, and maybe that's where I'm getting this from. But
okay.
yeah, I digress. Not a great injury. To his fourth known concussion in 3 years.
Just in the NFL. Yeah, just in the NFL.
He is not going to retire. It sounds like he will play again this year. They aren't going to put a timeline on it. Seems like they're just really trying to give him the space. He's probably droppable in redraft at this point if you have him. I would say, though, that the major fantasy impact goes to his receivers and to Devin Achane. I'm worried about Tyreek and Waddle. Their ceilings are basically gone. I did see some data that Skylar Thompson is a check down merchant. I think Achane just goes to the moon. I think that's probably how
I think he's fine. The wide receivers are in like massive trouble. Massive, absolutely massive trouble.
Like McDaniel's scheme him. I'm sure they'll like Tyreek will still get like 15 PPR points, but these 30-point Tyreek bombs seem a little limited, all things considered. So
yeah,
I don't know.
We'll see how long he's out. They just signed Snoop. Skylar Thompson. We've seen him in a couple of different, games, and like it's not good.
No,
like it's really not good. So I don't know. It kind of feels like the hope is he's not going to be out very long. That's kind of best case for those guys.
We'll see. I don't want to get too into the weeds on fantasy. This is a pretty scary injury. Hopefully, Tua takes the time to make the decisions best for him.
He should stop.
Yeah, people get triggered when you make that suggestion. I don't really get it, but whatever he needs to do for him and his family, I respect it. But the season goes on. We have to make sure we position the mean team in the best according way. You're not dropping Waddle. You're not dropping Tyreek. They're going to be okay. They're just going to be more of at their floors than at their ceilings until he's back. Snoop Huntley, though, has had a history of feeding Mark Andrews and getting some huge performances out of guys. So it's not all doom and gloom if Huntley comes in and plays for Skylar Thompson. Next injury here, Christian McCaffrey lands on the IR with an Achilles tendonitis injury. Kyle Shanahan is a liar and a bad person. I say that as I wear my 49ers hat. Big time fan of Kyle Shanahan as a Niner fan. As a fantasy nerd, I am very upset with how this was reported. I've gone on this podcast and said, hey, don't worry about CMC. It's just a calf. He could play tomorrow if they were just lying to us, man. This is bad. He's going to be on IR. He's probably won't even play till week 10. Their bye's week 9. You might see CMC for the first time against Tampa Bay. So
Kyle's an asshole for this. I'm sure the whole org had something to do with it, but yeah, no, this is like I know we've talked about like for how ingrained like the NFL is with like fantasy football and gambling. For this to be like so misreported, like blatantly, is brutal. Like it's brutal. It's if you don't have Jordan Mason, like you're 100% cooked.
If you have CMC, if you have Jordan Mason and you have Deebo, things are looking pretty good. All things considered, the offense is funneling through them. Ayuk's been bad since coming back. I knew he was going to be bad. He'll not separating. He'll ramp up, but it's been bad. Yeah. He does not look like Brandon Ayuk. It's what happens when you don't play all offseason and you don't practice. So I'd say probably around week 5 against Arizona, this offense will have more of an identity of what they're going to try to do. They're kind of learning on the fly. All things considered, though, Deebo and Mason have been the two big guys for the Niners. Next injury here, Joe Mixon. Looked like a high ankle, came back and played for 3 plays. They pulled him. He underwent an MRI. D'Amico Ryan said, we're going to take it day by day. He did not say he's day to day. He said, we're going to take it day by day. I'm guessing Mixon misses a couple of weeks. But we don't
know how this can the fact that he came back personally gives me a bit of optimism. I don't know. It's probably for the best he does sit. So we'll see. I think in a perfect world he sits 2-3 weeks, gets back to full strength.
We don't have Cam Akers on this list. If it becomes clear that Mixon's going to miss time, Akers is a priority ad.
Huge.
I don't think it's Dameon Pierce. Akers has actually looked pretty good in the limited run they've given him.
Minus the goal line fumble.
I didn't even know that happened. Oh, no. I had to. Oh, that's right. That did happen. I was building my fiance wrote me into building furniture during the fourth quarter of that game. I couldn't watch every minute of football this weekend, guys, but I was close. I was close to pulling it off. Next injury I want to highlight is Rachaad White groin. He played. Seemed like it was a minor injury. This is just kind of a status update. If you picked up Bucky, keep Bucky. I think Rachaad White will play, but groin injuries, man, those aren't that fun. So if you have Bucky, hold on tight. Do not drop Bucky Irving. Repeat.
No.
You're going to want him on your bench. Another guy we didn't highlight, and we got some shit from our buddy Diego for not highlighting Tank Bigsby in the show last week. Bigsby gets hurt with a shoulder injury. Looks like he's banged up. I don't know. He returned to action, but I just want to highlight this. If he's hurt, he's borderline droppable at this point. This Jags offense is just sorry as hell.
It's awful. Like, I was riding the Christian Kirk wagon, and I'm feeling bad about that. Evan Ingram's hurt now. It's in pregame. Getting hurt in pregame is such a kick to the nuts. I couldn't believe that one.
We're going to highlight the next two guys are our hamstring guys here. Evan Engram pulled his hamstring in pregame warmups. He is going to miss 2 to 3 weeks. You pull your hamstring, it's a 2 to 3 week injury. If you have Engram, you hope it's a little bit longer. You do not want to rush them back because he will re-injure it. This is just how hamstrings work. Deontay Johnson last year did 6 weeks, and he came back and was okay after the hamstring. Christian Watson, they kept rushing him back, and he just kept pulling it. Hamstrings are awful. I do not expect Engram to play for the next 2 to 3 weeks. I could be wrong. He could be a good healer, but you pull your hamstring pregame warmups, see you in 2 to 3 weeks. That's just kind of how this one goes. The other guy who did the same thing is AJ Brown.
That sucked on Friday.
Anytime you see a guy be a full participant on a Thursday, and then they're limited on a Friday, and they are limited with a hamstring, usually means they got hurt during practice. That usually means they're going to miss the week. AJ Brown's a superhuman, so this could just be a 1 week thing because he hadn't played till it'll end up being almost, well, I don't know. He'll get injured on a Friday. He'll play next Sunday. I would not be shocked if this is a 2 week absence for AJ Brown, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on this? Do you think he comes back sooner?
I don't know. Like they're kind of keeping their cards close on this one, in terms of like what he's doing. And then to your point, like the guy's an absolute freak human, so you just don't know how severe it is. I don't know, man. I'd like to see him back next week, but in a perfect world, we wait till he's 100%. So, I have far more optimism in a guy like AJ Brown coming back, in shorter time than, someone like Evan Engram. So I don't know though.
ARSB sounds like he wasn't really they were super injured. A lot of people on the timeline thought it was a knee, thought it was an MCL. They said it's a contusion. They say it's cramps. He looked pretty hurt. This could be a bone bruise in his knee. I don't know though. He could be out a week or two. I wouldn't be shocked. But he's Amon-Ra St. Brown. He may play. Dude's a warrior.
He's gonna play. He's gonna play. I think they're downplaying it as well.
He's a warrior. So I would not be shocked if he played how many weeks with just straight up his oblique.
What was it? Yeah.
No, I think he tore his oblique off the bone, or this guy's insane. How tough he is.
He looked really good too, which is a bummer. He looked like the sun god, dude. Fucking 19 targets. It was awesome.
This run out for Jameson Williams has been crazy. It's been crazy if you draft the JMO.
Yeah.
Saddest injury of the week. There are two of them. One is Cooper Kupp. Looks like he could land on injured reserve. They're saying extended period of time. He had to have tightrope surgery before, which means he really fucked up his ankle. He was seen leaving the locker room in a boot. This season is going nowhere for the Rams quick. So this is...
It's over.
Could be a season ender or just really makes his value in fan. I mean, I don't know, dude. He's probably he'll come back this year. Their bye is week 6. So he comes back, week 7 against the Raiders?
I don't think we see him until after the bye. Yeah, I don't think we see him until the bye.
So they're 0-2.
You're going to be 0-3 after SF. Probably.
So what? They're 1-4.
Dude, they might go into that bye 0-5.
I'd be shocked if they go on 5, but putting him on IR would mean it's a 5-week deal, and he comes back against Minnesota.
That
He's going to
offense
want
with
to play.
no Puka and Kupp is a nightmare.
We're going to get into it more, but
yeah,
if you have Cooper Kupp, the week 1 to week 2 vibe shift is going to be studied in history books. I went from being like, I'm going to win my league because I have Cooper Kupp to what the fuck am I going to do right now?
Yeah,
I am hosed at receiver. It's rough. He's an injury prone 31-year-old wide receiver. So like it happens, I guess, but it's just, this one's brutal. This one hurt me. This one hurt me to my core. I was riding high on the Kupp wave. This one sucked too. I didn't have a lot of Pacheco. I took a decent amount of him in best ball. He had the Tony Pollard. He broke his fibula. I mean, this is the same injury Mark Andrews had. Mark Andrews missed the entirety of the season with it. Pacheco probably comes back for the fantasy playoffs.
Maybe.
6 to 8 weeks.
Maybe.
So what? Week 11, week 12. Week 12. He's back against Carolina.
Yeah, this is pretty brutal.
Yeah, I mean, and we saw what this injury does to people. He is not gonna look that good when he comes back.
No, his year for fantasy purposes is all but over, barring a miracle.
Maybe he comes on strong in the offs. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if he's good in weeks 15 through 17. That means he's like a cool 2-3 months of rehab from the injury. But Jaden Waddle had the same injury and healed quick, and that was an 11-week recovery. So
Cleveland, Houston, and Pitt are all not great matchups on top of that. So it's like, it's all bad. It's all bad for Pacheco owners. Yeah, go find alternative plans.
Fantasy fallout, Pacheco, Kupp, CMC, these are all just disasters. I mean,
top 3, 2-3 round guys. Yeah, there's so
AJ Brown pulled hamstring at practice is a disaster. It's rough. Like, again, this is fantasy football. This is a skill issue. Like, you just got to fight through it at the end of the day, right? No one's gonna care if your guys are hurt. You just kind of have to figure it out, and that's what we're gonna do. Today's episode is going to be catered towards trying to find you the right mix of plug and play starters, along with some high upside guys that you can put at the end of the bench.
I've got a late update that Deebo strained his calf. He's missing a couple of weeks.
No, you're kidding me.
Literally right now from Schefter 1 minute ago.
You're kidding me.
This is a disaster. This could not
another calf.
Oh
my gosh.
Yeah, we'll probably have to talk about Juwan Jennings a little bit today. Holy shit! All right, yep, that's a late one for you guys. We're breaking real time news here on the show.
I'm reading it now from Rap. Kyle Shanahan told reporters that wide receiver Deebo Samuel has a calf strain and will miss a few weeks. So that means, what? What does that mean? That means a month? Like, what does a Kyle Shanahan injury update mean?
I don't know. That's what CMC had. I'd assume a month. I wouldn't guess it takes you to the bye, but I don't know.
He'll be back by Seattle. They'll want to win this game.
Hopefully,
they'll want to win this game. So week 6, Deebo. I have a team with Deebo and CMC. Wow, that is in RIP.
I've got you next week.
Christian Kirk, baby, get ready to get in the offense, right? Ready to get back in the lineup. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's do this. Let's get into it. That is just a nightmare.
Get into it.
Oh, calf strain. You have to be kidding me. Okay. This is why we have you. Breaking news. All right, we're gonna start things off here with our lead guy. This is our lead guy.
I can't believe
believe in the year 2024 we are going to start things off here with the man that was yelled after they won, the Chargers won. They were like, they gave him the game ball. They were like, "Where's Q at? Q." We're picking up Quentin Johnston, baby. Owned in 5.7% of fantasy leagues across all leagues. QJ is leading the waiver wire episode this week. Aidan, you're going to carry the torch for us. Why should the mean team pick up Quentin Johnston?
I want it on record before I get into this. I never gave up on QJ.
Bag holder.
Shaun and Keegan were viciously trying to prow away my QJ bag and make me give up, but I wouldn't do it. And early on, it's paying off. What a game for QJ. Caught 5 of his 6 targets, 51 yards and 2 tutties. And through 2 weeks is the best wide receiver on their roster. Leads the team in every single statistical category. Leads the team in targets, leads the team in yards, leads the team in receptions. He's currently sporting, what is it? I need to find it again. I think it was a 38% first read target share. Yeah, 38% first read target share. QJ is the man right now in LA. Like the passing volume is not all that high right now, but like this offense has pretty much been exactly what I wanted from a passing perspective. It's QJ and Ladd. Shaun mentioned it before we jumped on. Like Palmer might be dealing with an injury of some sort, but
he's clearly banged up. Yeah,
but QJ looks good. Like this is a much different receiver than we saw in year 1 versus year 2. It feels like this new coaching staff is kind of giving him like a second life. A much more confident receiver. But like, if you look at all the metrics, like that's a good receiver. This is the wide receiver to own in that offense going forward. So super happy for QJ. Hope it's not just like, a small spurt here and he returns to kind of like the dust we saw at the end of last year. But like, you absolutely have to like roster QJ, and with all these injuries, like there's a good chance QJ's finding his way into lineups this week.
Yes.
Can't believe
I
it,
think,
man.
I think there's a high % chance that he's going to be in lineups this week. He's leading the Chargers in routes, target percentage, end zone targets, play action targets, ADOT, air yards, and first read target share.
Yeah, he's out snapping everyone by a mile too. I think it was he played 70% of the snaps. Like the next closest with Ladd at 49. Like he's on the field significantly more than everyone. He's getting targeted more than everyone. Like it's everything you want from him. Like from first round wide receiver. So it's pretty awesome.
It's a low volume passing offense, so he's going to have to remain efficient. But
yeah,
this is already starting to show up in the box score. This isn't like theoretical stuff. He was the wide receiver 11 pre-Monday Night Football. This is a top 12 wide receiver finish for QJ. I think that's the first time in his career he's done that. I'll have to fact check that, but this has been surprising, say the least. Yeah. Big tip of the cap to Roman and Harbaugh. They're getting the most out of this roster, and it does make sense.
Oh, yeah.
QJ is a far more talented guy than Josh Palmer. So getting the most out of him so far is
awesome.
I think it does make sense for them trying to maximize winning games. So tip of the cap to them. And it has been like down the field targets. It hasn't necessarily been these like screens that we thought he would do. He just looks better. They didn't give up on him. So
the ADOT's pretty good. It's like just beyond 10 yards, like leads the team in air yards. It's again, he's doing all the right things. It's kind of crazy.
What do we think? 10% FAAB? I wouldn't get too crazy. This isn't a super high volume passing offense.
Yeah, I'd say call it 10%. To your point, like we're still not seeing 10 targets a game type thing, but he's clearly going to be the number one on that offense, at least going forward.
Second guy we've got here is Demarcus Robinson, wide receiver for the LA Rams. He's owned in 28% of fantasy leagues. There's a lot of debate. Demarcus Robinson, Tyler Johnston. I lean D-Rob because D-Rob was running ahead of Johnson before the Puka injury as a locked and loaded starter in 3 wide receiver sets. D-Rob also had a really nice stretch towards the back end of last year where he cleared 13 fantasy points from weeks 13 to 17. So he's got a history with Stafford of being a reliable target. His usage is pretty similar to Tyler Johnson. Like if we pull it up, I'm not going to act like this is some like revelatory, like clear better player. But I don't know. They're really similar. I'd say where Robinson differs is he wins further down the field. So he has a higher ADOT. He has a higher air yard share. Usually means more valuable PPR points, opportunities for big plays. Either way, this is a rough spot. Like, this offense is falling apart. Their entire offensive line is injured. Kupp and Puka are hurt. Like, this offense is like a, Matthew Stafford injured back away from just being done. Pack it up. We need a top 5 pick next year. Like, it's rough. You're hanging on for dear life. So D-Rob here is my preferred pickup. I do about 10% of my FAAB, considering the fact that this is still McVay. It still is Stafford. Another guy in this offense, though, that's interesting to me is Jordan Whittington. He is the 6th-round rookie out of Texas. He's pretty good with the ball in his hands, but he's a dart throw. Like, he was running more routes than Tutu in week 2 once everyone got hurt. So I think Whittington will play. He looked good in the preseason. I would not spend more than what, like, on Whittington. I don't even know if I don't even know if I'd put in a dollar figure. If it allows a $0 bid,
like 2 to 3%, if anything. I'm not really spending on him.
D-Rob's were at 10%. D-Rob's going to run a shit ton of routes. He's a high snap player. 92% of the snaps back-to-back weeks. He's running 90% of the routes. D-Rob's the guy, in my opinion, but it's bleak, man. It's bleak.
I'm probably picking D-Rob, too. They just paid him this offseason, too. Like, this is a guy with the most, like, chemistry with Matt Stafford. So, you're kind of throwing darts with this passing attack. But, yeah, I think I'd lean with you, Shaun, there, that D-Rob would be my prediction to be the guy that steps in as, like, a weekly viable guy. Next guy
I cannot believe we're making this recommendation right now.
Yeah, this is not what I expected. But Alec Pierce, man, like, we can't ignore what he's done through 2 weeks. Back-to-back weeks now, the guy's scored over 16 points. Top 20 play in both of them. Like, currently leads the Colts wide receiver room. It's snaps, yards, catches, touchdowns, and is second in targets. Say what you will about him, but, like, the guy's getting open, and Anthony Richardson is finding him. This has been their most productive receiver in back-to-back weeks now. So I know Josh Downs is looming. I know Michael Pittman, PPR merchant, coming off an awesome year. And we've got A.D. Mitchell there, too. It feels like, he's bound to pop eventually. But as of right now, like, Alec Pierce is kind of the most reliable guy in that passing attack. So I'm not going crazy on him in terms of, like, FAAB. This is probably somewhere in the 5 to 10 range. I'm probably leaning closer to 5 just because, like, there's a lot of different guys there. I think this could change week to week pretty quickly, but what he's done in the first 2 weeks is pretty impressive.
I think it's weird that he has a 25-yard ADOT with a 73% catch rate. Like, that's bizarre. I don't even. We're talking to A-Rich here, who's 64% catch rate for Pittman, 44% for Mitchell. It's just an inaccurate quarterback. And the guy who has the by far and away most insane ADOT, I think right now for a top 20 play, he's catching 73% of the balls, which is just kind of wild. Like, Pierce theoretically makes sense with A-Rich, downfield burner.
Totally.
And it's hitting home through 2 weeks. 22% of the targets,
scored
20% targets per route run, 89% route participation. It's not sexy, but he should be owned at this point. I'm not giving up on the A.D. Mitchell dream, but Pierce is playing more than well enough to kick Mitchell to the curb when Downs does come back. So I think Pierce is going to be on the field when Downs plays. So because of that, Pierce needs to be owned. Just somebody who's averaging 19 fantasy points per game through 2 weeks just has to be on rosters. He's only on 14% of rosters. So I think you got to pick him up.
Yep.
I'm going to go through these ones pretty quick here, but these are just kind of my dart throws per se before we get to your last one at receiver.
Yep.
First one I want to highlight here is Jalen Tolbert. Now, last week we talked about Brandon Cooks, and I even said Tolbert might just be who he is at this point because he just hasn't really done anything in 3 years. This was by far and away the most encouraging usage for Jalen Tolbert. And what he did in week 2 was pretty crazy. I'm looking at his box score stats here on Fantasy Life. Check this out. In week 2, 89% of the routes, 20% targets per out run, 20% target share, 13-yard ADOT, 33% air yard share. Just really good usage.
Super impressive usage, yeah.
Super good usage, 14.2 PPR points. Like, again, I've been critical of Tolbert, but they hyped him up over the offseason. He trained with Dak Prescott. There's a shower narrative going on. Didn't show up in week 1, showed up in week 2. I'm thinking 3 to 5% FAAB. He's owned in 4% of leagues. Don't get crazy with this one, but I think Tolbert is well worth picking up at this point. Do you have any thoughts on Tolbert before we get to the next guy?
Yeah, he needs to be rostered. I don't think he should be playing yet. But no, he looked really good. Like the metrics on him are good.
Next guy here is Xavier Legette. He's owned in 44% of leagues. Told him to go pick me up.
We talked about XL so much.
3 to 5% FAAB. Do not get crazy here. He literally had a goose egg last week. So this is a little bit of I'm projecting a little bit here, but I think everyone is worth a reshot here now that they bench Bryce Young. So, I mean, he's got 56% of the routes, 18% targets per out run, 13% target share, ADOT 17. Like, these are good underlying metrics. If you look at the game logs, he had a really good one in week 1, kind of a rough week 2. It was so rough for Bryce Young in week 2. I don't think I've seen something like that at an NFL field. It was
horrific.
Man, I don't even know how to contextualize that properly.
Dalton's going to get the ball to his pass catchers more. And at least we'll start to get a gauge of, DJ versus XL in this offense, kind of how they can coexist and, potentially, where each one's better. So, I like XL. Like, this is kind of a dart throw here, but I think it's worth it with the QB change. Like, Canales is a good OC. We saw it last year. It's a matter of, let's see if we can get it out of Dalton.
I cannot emphasize how bad Bryce Young was last week. So it is wild they already benched him, but it is huge for fantasy that we're going to basically get a 2-week mulligan before we get to an idea of who these guys actually are with a quarterback that the last time he played delivered the ball to his receivers. Like, Thielen went nuts when Dalton played last year. So, wow, we're just got the sexy names, huh? This is
I can't believe it, dude. I'll be honest, I kind of forgot Josh Reynolds was in Denver until last week or until this week. Pretty impressive showing though, man. 4 catches for 93 yards. Pretty much it feels pretty firm at this point, like who the wide receiver 2 in that offense is. I think there was really no doubt Cortland Sutton was going to be their number 1. But Josh Reynolds through 2 weeks has actually been pretty impressive. Just looking at what he's done. Leads the team in yards, leads the team in catches, second in targets, and something you mentioned on our notes here. It's like, Bo Nix and like a deep burner don't really coexist together. Whereas Josh Reynolds is, that ADOT is a bit more manageable for the Bo Nix kind of check down game that he likes to play. So I think they just make sense together. Like, this isn't someone I'm doing backflips about, but Bo Nix is going to get a little better. Like, all the rookie QBs have had a really tough run out so far. I think that's, very clear. But he's going to be the wide receiver 2 in that offense, a team that figures to be, behind in most games. Probably worth around that 3 to 5 range. Don't go nuts with Josh Reynolds, but, the second option in that passing offense is at least worth a look.
I feel like they're going to throw the ball a ton because that's just kind of how these games have played out. It's been a little bit of going from the Seahawks, who clearly have a good defense, and the Steelers, who have a really good defense. It's a rough opening to Nix's career. It's just not. It's a rough one. He hasn't looked good at all, but it's not easy. I just do think his game fits better with Nix. Cortland Sutton has a 14.6 ADOT and a 40% catchable target rate. Reynolds is more at the 11 and has a 70% catchable target rate. Vele did miss this game, and Vele had great usage in week 1 at his 2-yard ADOT, which is very much in play for Bo Nix. So if Devon Vele, who is out with a rib injury, plays in week 3, he's potentially worth a kind of a deep stash. But man, this is rough. The answer to this question is probably no one. But you just lost Cooper Kupp. You're going to need some answers here. So these guys are all viable, in my opinion, and worth picking up. So
Yeah,
3 to 5%. Don't get crazy. Vele is like a 1% $0 bid, much like Whittington. These are kind of deep guys.
Yeah.
I prefer Reynolds and D-Rob over those guys.
Yeah, same.
So I'd say this is probably would you say like the most important one to figure out is the Chiefs backfield, because we're going to transition here to running backs. And
yeah, because this is like a rest of the season answer.
Yeah, this is
like a lot of these
deal.
guys are maybe plugs, but this is like if you guess this one right, like weekly play attached to Patrick Mahomes.
I think that this offense is clearly just going to become super pass heavy.
I think so too.
But Perine has a history. Like, he's had some spike weeks when Mixon was out. So we have a historical precedent of Perine having some big games. What was it in 2022? He had a 30 burger against Pittsburgh, 19 and 21. He had a 3-week stretch where this guy was like a top 5 running back.
Yeah, he had a
in
hat
fantasy
trick.
in 2022. So like there's some history whereas Carson Steele, I mean, he fumbled in one of his like big moments. But they trust him. They clearly like him. Like
they really
he's gonna get the goal. He's gonna get the goal line. He's gonna get the goal line looks.
Yeah.
So
I think you put it there perfectly. Like, I think Steele's going to be, the obvious early down and red zone ball carrier, whereas I think Perine's going to be on the field a ton, like in between the 20s and on obvious passing downs, which, yeah, in my opinion, I think I'd rather have Perine, especially like pretty much everything we talk about is in PBR formats. So it's like I prefer Perine. I think his weekly floor is significantly higher, and then we've seen the ceiling too. Like we've seen some of these pop weeks, so it's I definitely trust Perine in that offense going forward. But Steele's worth being on your radar. Like the Chiefs are going to still score a ton of points, and he could fall into call it 8 touchdowns.
Perine has yet to get an attempt, so he's had a 6% target share.
I think that'll
23% targets per route run. He's going to play on the late down and distance. He's going to play in the 2-minute drill. Steele's going to get the short down stuff. This is going to be a committee. I'd be shocked if one of these guys emerges and they're already even talking about picking up Kareem Hunt. Like he might be making his way back. So I don't know, man. But I if you look at the week 2 splits, it doesn't really tell us much, in my opinion. You've got, it was basically 21% of the routes for Perine to 10% for Steele, but Steele outsnapped Perine 17 to 12. I wouldn't blame you for getting aggressive with. I wouldn't blame you for getting aggressive with Perine. Like if you want to be like, hey, dude, I'm going to put a $20 to $25% bid on Perine. I wouldn't blame you. I really wouldn't. No. I don't think I'd be as aggressive with Carson Steele, but he did have some big runs in the preseason. So, like, I know that you're coming to us for our expertise. We're kind of throwing our hands up here. Anyone that's got a read on this is lying to you, in my opinion. I think I lean Perine. I think I lead Perine because he's done it before. But
it's also worth noting, too, like, we don't know. They just brought in Kareem Hunt today to work out. Like, there's a chance Kareem Hunt's signed by the end of this week. And we're now looking at those 2 plus Kareem Hunt. So it's like, no one knows how this is going to unfold. I think we're just looking at kind of like what has happened before with Perine and like what we've seen so far. So Perine makes sense as of right now. But, if Hunt enters the mix like this, like this changes quite a bit.
It is so over if Hunt enters the mix. But again, Perine was signed to a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
They went after him. Hunt's been out there the entire offseason. So I have to imagine Perine gets the nod. 3.7% owned for Perine, 2.6 for Steele. I'm thinking 15 to 20 for Perine. I wouldn't blame you. 10 to 15 for Carson Steele. That's kind of where I'm at. Those are even a little aggressive, but
yeah, that's probably a little more than I do. But if you're really down bad for running back, like I wouldn't knock it. There's not a lot better out there right now.
I think this guy's better. He's owned in 38.8% of leagues, and that's Rico Dowdle.
For sure.
I would do a 15 to 20% bid on Dowdle. He hasn't really done a whole lot. Week 1, they went with Zeke. Week 2, he was a starter, but that game kind of got out of hand. So
fast, real fast.
And they were mixing in Deuce Vaughn. Like there were some, like I'll pull up the usage right now. Like
they were down the
Deuce was loose. The Deuce was loose a little bit. Hunter Lepke's getting run, but I'd say out of everything, Dowdle's got a better utilization score. I right here in week 2, Dowdle, he out-touched, targeted, snapped Zeke. This matchup's kind of rough, though. They've got Baltimore next week, New York the week after, which will be a good one. Pitt is rough, and Detroit's not kind to running backs. I think Dowdle only does well if he just continues to see work in the pass game as a pass catcher. That's kind of my POV with Dowdle.
Yeah, I think I lean Dowdle over Zeke too. Like if you look at like the stats and what they've done this year, like it's honestly pretty even. But Dowdle just looks like he's got more juice. Like we kind of knew what we were expecting with Zeke this year. And we're kind of seeing it, like, just looks older, looks slower. So I'd put my money on Rico emerging out of these two. And to your point, like that offense is going to continue to be good. Last week was weird. They were playing from behind all game, but in a good game script, the RB1 in this backfield is going to be, a valuable fantasy asset. So I also lean Dowdle here.
I think you can get away with starting Dowdle, like if Walker's hurt,
or like a flex. I started him, potentially, like if you're thin at wide out.
I started him last week in a couple leagues. It wasn't amazing, but it got the job done, and he looks better than Zeke. They're both going to play, but I think
got
I
like 10
Dowdle.
points last week. Yeah,
that's
not bad.
This guy looked awesome though. He looked awesome. Great. Ty Chandler.
Yeah, it's funny because like this goes back to last season, like us joking around about like Ty Chandler versus Alexander Madison. Ty Chandler looked good though, dude. He looked significantly better than Aaron Jones on the ground. The guy averaged 8 yards a carry, man. 10 carries, 82 yards.
He gashed us.
Versus Aaron Jones, 9 for 32 and a pretty costly fumble. By no means is that he going to find his way to the doghouse. And he also contributed quite a bit in the passing game. He had 5 catches for 36 yards, while Ty Chandler didn't see any targets this week, but had a couple the prior week. So what you like, though, is his snaps are increasing week over week, which is encouraging. That doesn't suggest it.
His attempt share.
Okay, yeah, that's what it was that I was looking at. So like his role's increasing in this offense through 2 weeks. Like this is a team that looks significantly better than I think anyone really gave him credit for. So shout out Kevin O'Connell. Dude's just kind of a wizard. So looks really good. And like we're an Aaron Jones injury away from like RB1, like high end RB2 usage. So 40% ownership kind of suggests that like, this isn't much of a secret in terms of what we think Ty Chandler is, but if he's still out there, this is someone where we're probably, 10 to 15% FAAB. How much did you spend on Ty Chandler?
I'd say 15 to 20. He's in a 60-40 timeshare with Aaron Jones. Like, and I could just have recency bias because he did play the Niners and just absolutely gashed us, but he was running between the tackles and looked explosive.
Yeah.
But Jones continues to get the high value touches. He's getting the goal line touches,
which is
inside the 5, and he's getting the targets. But he did fumble on the 1 yard line. And KOC went to Chandler down the stretch. He went to Chandler down the stretch. So, and did Jones go in the injury tent?
I don't think so. Did he?
He was like warming up on the sidelines, and they were staring at him. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Jones, but
yeah, I don't think so. They're both good backstone, but yeah, no. Ty Chandler looked really good, man. Do a shot out of a cannon on some of those runs.
But yeah, it's a 60-40 timeshare, 50-40 in terms of attempts. He needs to be owned, and this is a good offense, and he's going to dominate if he becomes the guy. All right, more of a rapid fire here. This will be our last running back before we quickly get through QBs and tight ends. Braelon Allen, what's going on here, man? I was told he was just a handcuff, but he got some run.
A lot of run. What the hell?
He looked good. He looked
awesome.
They were running personnel where it's 22 with him and Brees on the field together. And
that's fun.
They might have figured something out there. It's unsustainable to play running backs on the field a ton, but Braelon Allen scores 19 fantasy points, has 2 touchdowns. Obviously, like, he's going to regress. Like, he had like 8 touches for 2 touchdowns. Like, that's not going to happen every week, but his week 2 splits were solid. 70-30. So like he's clearly the 1B, but 70-30 indicates he'll be on the field. 60-40 in terms of attempts. 30% target share for Brees to 15%. Like, the high value short down and long down and distance snaps are going to go to Brees. But he needs to be owned in all formats. 8.9% ownership. I would do 10 to 15% FAAB. He's as high end of a stash as you're going to get, because if Brees gets hurt, this guy looks good. So he would be one of those guys to where I think it's safe to assume that if Brees goes down, maybe Isiah Jackson, the other rookie they drafted, plays a little bit more, but Braelon would probably be in line for 80% of the snaps.
Yeah.
So
there hasn't been another RB that's like seen a snap yet. It's Brees and Braelon. They've seen every single RB snap in this offense. So yeah, to your point,
look
like
at that.
this is RB1 upside if anything happens to Brees. But even like, you know, like he's got flex play, fringe flex play, like every week with the way he's playing right now. Like, you know, like design screenplays and stuff. It's frustrating if you're a Brees owner. As a Jets fan, like, you've got to be pretty excited though. Like, these guys are great complements of each other.
All right, moving on to quarterbacks here. We got 2 of them. The best quarterback in the NFL through 2 weeks, Derek Carr. Aidan, what are we doing with Derek Carr?
You can't ignore it, man. Dude, QB6 and QB2 through 2 weeks right now. 5 TDs, absolutely slicing and dicing under Kubiak's new offense. The dude's sporting a 77% completion percentage right now. Like, the dude is seeing the field so well. Like, and it's short stuff, intermediate stuff. He's hitting his Shaheed bombs. Like,
Shaheed, dude,
they're pulling all the right levers right now, man.
Shaheed is different. Him and Olave are so good together. Oh my god, like, that is a fun duo.
Olave had a nice game too, which was actually really encouraging. As like week 1, they scored 40 plus, and Olave had like 6 fantasy points. I was like, what the hell happened? Like, what did I miss? But no, he's been awesome. Like, if you lost a guy like Tua, or if you lost a guy like Jordan Love, like you should start Derek Carr. You know, like, the guy is really good right now. That offense just feels like it's really humming. And you know, there's not much more to say. Like, he just looks like in total command of that offense. The new scheme has done wonders for that team, and yeah, they've scored on all 15 drives that Derek Carr has been under center. All 15 drives.
That's insane.
They have either scored a touchdown or a field goal. Like, that is bonkers right now. So I don't know. What do you think about Derek Carr? Is this sustainable? You think this is fool's gold?
Philly's a good matchup. We'll see if Kirk Cousins does well, but they got gashed by Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Atlanta's got good safety play, but you can pass on it a little bit. And Joe Burrow just had a good game against KC. Like, and Tampa Bay's been kind of thrown on a little bit. So
there's no offense that I see here that's really like a massive red flag. And they play in a dome. You know,
they got
half
the dome.
Games are in a dome. You got Atlanta twice. You know, it's like you know, it's a pretty favorable run out.
Yeah, I like Derek Carr. I wouldn't get too crazy. You're probably just streaming him at this point. 5% FAAB, but he's only at 11.7% of leagues. So I'd pick him up. He's a great streaming option if you're still trying to figure out the Jordan Love piece of this all. So I'd go get Derek Carr. Well, the other guy I'd go pick up is Geno Smith. We all know Geno Smith's super talented. There's not a hole he's not afraid to rip it into. Week 1, he has that amazing rushing touchdown. Week 2, he throws for 300 yards. I think not many people have thrown for 300 yards yet in this young season because defenses are just owning offenses, but he looked good.
It's so ass.
I think what's important for Seattle is DK and JSN are settling into these 1A and 1B roles. Like, the JSN usage was so promising. I was panicking after week 1. And I'm very happy with the JSN emergence. Then Lockett remains probably one of the more reliable third options in the league. He plays Miami, Detroit, and the Giants. He's already cleared 18 fantasy points in back-to-back weeks. Like, this is a good streaming option, man. Geno's a professional quarterback.
For sure.
He's a professional quarterback.
Yeah, it was super encouraging. Like, I think people kind of freaked out about the Ryan Grubbs offense week 1. Like, it was just 1 week. But then, like, you look at his passing chart this week, it was the entire field, man. Like, the entire field. All 3 levels, fucking awesome. Like, that's what you want to see from an offense. Like, Geno absolutely commanded this week, and to your point, some pretty cush matchups. So yeah, he's got starter upside.
Professional quarterback in every
Yeah.
sense of the word.
Seriously.
Hunter Henry, baby. We're moving on to tight ends, and
Holy
holy
shit.
shit, what a week for Hunter Henry.
Yeah.
Aidan texted me like, "Oh my gosh, Hunter Henry just went insane."
Yeah, there were two games that I admittedly just didn't want to watch. One of them was Seattle, New England. The other one was Washington, New York. When I looked at the box score for this New England Seattle game, I was like, "What the fuck just happened?" The guy caught he had a 40% target share. Like, what are we doing? 109 yards on 8 catches. No one else on the team had more than 3 targets or 12 yards, wide receivers included. I was like, am I reading this right? Is this box score broken? Just looking at it though, just from a season perspective too, he's got close to a 30% target share, playing over 80% of the snaps. Hunter Henry just won't die. It's just he just keeps hanging around. Yeah,
it's a must. Tight end's so
the usage
thin.
is nuts. The usage is nuts.
85% of the routes, 30% target share through 2 weeks, which leads all tight ends in the NFL. 31% air yard share leads all tight ends. He's currently the tight end 5 in fantasy points per game.
Crazy. Here we go again. This was a guy that we were kind of picking at the end of best ball draft, which I feel good about. We're talking about we're going to talk about another guy too that I was just going naked late round draft. It wasn't Zach Ertz, but Shaun, tell us about Zach Ertz, man, because this has been kind of nuts too, and we saw this coming to a degree, but this has still been pretty shocking.
Yeah, this is crazy. Zach Ertz is a must-start tight end in fantasy right now. He does this every 3 years, especially with Cliff, where it's this guy deserves probably none of these routes. He's clearly icing a talented young rookie in Ben Sinnott, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. His peripherals are also crazy. These are all tight ends here in usage. 82% of the routes, which is just awesome. 16% target share. Shocked to see this, but 9.8 ADOT. Didn't expect that for him to have. I thought he'd be the 2-3 yard ADOT. 88% catchable target rate. Jaden hasn't looked awesome, but Jaden's pretty accurate for the most part, especially over the intermediate area of the field.
Yeah. Big target too, man. He's a big target. He's not
29% of the air yard share. What? He's number 2 in air yard share right now, which is just insane.
Behind Hunter Henry. Jesus Christ, dude.
And Trey McBride. Trey McBride, by the way, is in line for a massive year.
Awesome.
All things considered.
Awesome.
This is easily top 10 usage for Ertz. Ertz is now going to get matchups against Cincinnati, Arizona, Cleveland, Baltimore. So, sorry, my dogs are going crazy in the back. Do you hear them going crazy?
I heard one little rough, but
yeah, all of them. I have no idea what's going on out there. It's madness, but yeah, you got to go pick up Zach Ertz, man. I can't believe in the year 2024, but you got to do it. I know.
Pretty nuts.
I would go start him. Seriously, this is pretty insane usage for the 33-year-old Zach Ertz. No yak Zach. No yak Zach is firmly on the menu.
No yak Zach is back. Let's just keep rhyming.
All right, let's end it with another fan favorite. Who won't go away as well, and that's the Godsecki himself, Mike Gesicki.
I can't believe it. This one's pretty similar again to what we thought he was going to be, dude. The guy he's got a 20% target share, leads the team in targets, receptions, and yards through 2 weeks. The Bengals passing attack has been super strange. I don't know if there's real concerns about Burrow's wrist, but they're really not pushing the ball, which is pretty advantageous for a guy like Gesicki. Even weirder is he's only playing about 50% of the snaps. This is a part-time player. Yeah, it's what he did in Miami. The role was kind of weird in New England with Hunter Henry, but this is what he did in Miami. The guy does not block. Exactly what he's doing when he's on the field, but it's working. It's been the most efficient player in that passing attack so far. So it's 3% owned right now. You at least got to get him on rosters if you're dealing with a guy like Kincaid or Engram or something where it's your early tight end isn't working out. Go get a guy like this, man. He's not owned by anyone.
Yeah, and I just realized we haven't been doing the FAAB bids. So for Derek Carr, 5%, Geno Smith, 5%, Hunter Henry, I've got 10% FAAB. I think he is by far away the best usage. Zach Ertz, I've got 5% FAAB. And then Gesicki, I've got 5% too. This is a gross tight end rotation. Like all four of these guys are playing, and all four of these guys are getting targets. But Gesicki has a 35% targets per route run, up 49% of the routes, 23% of the air yards. He's the only tight end to get an end zone target. He's averaging 10 fantasy points per game. He's the one I feel the least confident about because of this rotation they play him. But they play Washington next week, and if T. Higgins doesn't play, it's really hard for me not to start Mike Gesicki if you're streaming tight end.
Like, yeah, honestly,
and Carolina. They have Washington and Carolina in back-to-back weeks. You could do way worse than starting Mike Gesicki at tight end.
You got New York the following week too, man. It's a pretty good schedule.
Yeah, you got Baltimore, which is a little rough, but outside of that, man,
those divisional games are always fun. Yeah,
these are usable weeks.
It's funny, man. Like we got all like the old tight ends that we've been talking about for years that are just like they just won't go away. So that's the tight end position though. It's you never know what's going to get with the tight ends.
This wire reeks of week 8 wire. What happened to the waiver wire I loved last year?
Yeah.
So QJ right here is our first option. D-Rob, Alec Pierce, Jalen Tolbert, Xavier Legette, Josh Reynolds. Say Perine and Carson Steele are the two most important players on this. You could potentially win a few weeks if you get this right. You could potentially lose a lot of FAAB if you get this wrong. It's high risk, in my opinion. I really like Dowdle and Chandler as guys to pick up.
Yep.
Allen is a great stash. Derek Carr and Geno Smith are fine streamers. I think Hunter Henry is a legitimate option to fill your tight end hole if you punted on tight end this year.
Yeah.
And I really like Zach Ertz and Mike Gesicki as streamers. So like that's where we're at in week 2.
One last one too that we didn't really like. We talked about the injury. Like go get Juwan Jennings too. Go get Juwan Jennings. That's probably probably around a 5. I don't think I'd go up to 10, but go get Juwan Jennings. Ayuk should.
Ayuk's gonna smash.
They're gonna need Ayuk to smash, but
but
Juwan Jennings actually had a pretty good week. Yeah, had a couple targets
in week 1. Yeah,
catches.
He'll play.
Jennings.
He'll play.
He'll
run a decent amount of routes with.
No, they love him. He's
Deebo
super sure-handed. So a little bonus one if you're still here with us. Go get Jennings.
All right, man. We made it through the week 2 wire. A lot of injuries, and there are not that many options. So hopefully you drafted well, because if you didn't, it's a skill issue. So figure it out. All right, Aidan. Thank you for joining me as always. And we'll be back later in the week. We're going to do some buys and sells, some guys you should target that are buy low candidates, and then we'll be back later in the week ranking running backs and wide receivers. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. And until next time, everybody.